In the 2025 NFL season, several NFL teams have looked better than what we expected. So in today's video, I want to go over a bunch of different teams that have overperformed expectations in the 2025 NFL season. Hit the like and subscribe button if you guys do want to enjoy. Let's hop into it. So in this video, I have a total of 8 different teams, and we are going to begin with at number 8, the Seattle Seahawks. So these are going to be in no particular order because each one of these teams has like a different story to talk about here. Let's start off with the Seattle Seahawks. Currently, the Seahawks sit at 8-3. They're second in the division. They have a really good chance of winning the division if they have a good rest of the season, and they've looked like one of the best teams in football. Hell, if we were just talking about individual players who are overperforming, Jackson Smith-Njigba is probably number 1 on the list. He's having an incredible season. When it comes to Seattle, I expected them to be good. I thought 10-7, 11-6, somewhere around that range felt very realistic. But even after, 12 weeks into the season, I think they're way overperforming even my expectations. Right now, they look like a team that's going to be somewhere between 12-5 or 13-4. They have a great offense, a great defense. And the reason why they're on this video, let's not forget, just a few months ago, it was Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and questions all over the roster. Then they got rid of those guys, promoted Jackson Smith-Njigba to be the number 1 option, signed Sam Darnold, signed DeMarcus Lawrence, drafted Nicky Monwori, Gray Zabel, etc., and developed the players within. And now you're talking about potentially a top 5 defense with potentially a top 5 to top 10 offense. Like, that's how good they've been this year. They've been one of the big surprises of the season, and frankly, I'm very happy for them because I think the league is better when Seattle is a great football team, and this year they're going to be in the conversation. Now, will the Seattle Seahawks win the entire thing, win the Super Bowl? I'm not sure. I don't think that would be a wise prediction to make right now, but do I think they can make a playoff run? Do I think they can make the playoffs? Do I think they can win the division? 1,000%. I think they could easily do all those things. And who knows, a couple of things go their way, they might win it all this year. Like, I don't know. It's pretty open this year. I do think the LA Rams are the better football team, but let's not forget, the Rams versus the Seahawks just played, and Sam Darnold threw 4 interceptions, and yet the Seahawks still had a chance to win the game late. So I think they're a great team. I think they have a lot of things going for them, and I think looking forward into next year and years after, they're just going to continue to ascend. Next up at number 7, I have the Carolina Panthers. This one does feel a little bit poorly timed because they're coming off a game versus San Francisco where they did not look very good. That all said, through 12 weeks, they currently sit at 6-6, and while they're nowhere near the top upper echelon of the NFL, or, are they even a top 16 team in the league? I don't know. I haven't done my power rankings recently, so they might be there, they might not. But this was a team that entering into the year, we wanted to see them take a step, but we really weren't sure if they were going to. I think the expectation for most people was maybe they would finish the season with around 6 wins. Well, through 12 weeks, they've already hit the 6-win mark, and within their own division, there's a legit chance they could win the division. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are dealing with a ton of injuries, and now Baker Mayfield could miss some time too. And the Buccaneers are 6-5. Like, they are really close in terms of record. And if Carolina just doesn't slip up too many times and they win the 2 games versus Tampa Bay down the stretch of the season, like, all bets are off. Carolina could be a team that actually makes the playoffs in what would now be, year 2 or 3 of Dave Canales. So really impressive stuff here. I don't think we've seen the big step forward from Bryce Young, at least not consistently, which would be the one thing that is still concerning for this team. But as an overall roster, the defense has been significantly better. The ground game has been very good. They just got to get Bryce more comfortable, which I don't know if he's going to be the answer. I'll just kind of throw that out there. Still, though, they're 6-6 through 12 weeks. They've been, a competitive football team, and they've won some games they probably shouldn't have won. They've lost a couple they probably should have won. Like, it's been that type of year, but I don't think a lot of us had them going 6-6 through week number 12. If you asked me, I would have said, I don't know, like 4-8 or 5-7, somewhere in that range. But no, they're 6-6, and they're right in the mix of things to potentially win their division, which is crazy to think about. Next up, let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. So whenever I talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars, I am almost like at a loss for words because they're such a weird, inconsistent, and frustrating football team because they're winning games. They're 7-4. They have a win versus the Kansas City Chiefs. They could still win the division. They could easily make the playoffs, yet it feels like they're not playing that good. Like, that's the crazy thing to think about. I think Liam Cohen has done a hell of a job just kind of keeping this team afloat, keeping them going, keeping them pushing, despite the fact that Trevor, one drive looks incredible, and then the very next drive looks absolutely horrible. Like, he's got to be the most inconsistent player ever. But I'll give Liam Cohen and I'll give that roster credit. They are finding a way to navigate the ups and downs of their inconsistent quarterback, their inconsistent roster. The defense, I think, has gotten better. They've shown flashes of being a really good unit. Devin Lloyd's having a hell of a year. And offensively speaking, it hasn't been perfect, but the offense has been functional when they needed it to be functional. Again, such a frustrating, bizarre, weird team that is finding ways to win games. And heading into the season, I think most of our expectations for Jacksonville was that they would be better with Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence being, potentially better with Cohen as well. But I don't think we would have expected this. And I think it's even crazier to say that they've gotten this significantly better and they've gotten this record really without Travis Hunter doing much of anything this year. Like let's be honest, Travis hasn't really done anything at all. Has he been an impact player? Not really, maybe once or twice this whole season, and they're still pushing along despite the fact that Brian Thomas Jr. has been very disappointing this year, and Travis Hunter has not been particularly impactful. That's the craziest thing of it all. They're so inconsistent. Their big-time playmakers have not been great this year, yet they're 7-4. They're on top of the Houston Texans. They are one game, I guess, behind the Indianapolis Colts. They could win the freaking division. It's wild to think where Jacksonville has gotten to. And I'm so excited at some point this year to do a dedicated Jaguars video where I can kind of deep dive into how they're doing this stuff, because it is just insane what they're doing. It's fun as hell, but it's also kind of wild. Next up, let's go in and talk about the San Francisco 49ers. So this one's a little bit convoluted because heading into the season with the schedule they had, I had very high expectations for this team, and they have reached those expectations. They're 8-4. I think they are where they probably should have been. But if you had told me entering into the season, hey, Purdy's going to play 4 games through the first 12 weeks. Nick Bosa is going to be out for the year. Fred Warner is going to be out for the year. George Kittle misses 5 weeks of the season. Ayuk hasn't returned and will not return. Ricky Pearsall's been banged up. The only guy that's been healthy has been Christian McCaffrey. I would probably tell you, yeah, the Niners are in a tough situation. I would say at best they're 6-6 through 12 weeks. No, dude, they're 8-4, and they got some big wins on their resume. A win over the freaking LA Rams with Mac Jones at quarterback. They are doing such a hell of a job in the coaching staff, just navigating these ups and downs, and mostly downs, with all of these injuries and all the different players that are having to play for this team. One game it's Pearsall, one game it's Kendrick Bourne, one day it's George Kittle, the next day it's Juwan Jennings. They are just rotating these bodies in. The only stable person on this roster has been Christian McCaffrey, which Christian hardly played last year because of some sort of Achilles injury. And this year, the dude's carrying the rock 30, 40 times, getting multiple 30 touches games this season, and he's held up. The one guy we had injury concerns has held up this year. They're such a bizarre team, but Robert Saleh and Kyle Shanahan, I don't think they're going to win Coach of the Year. I think it'll probably go to somebody else, a team we'll talk about here in a little bit, but they got to be in the conversation. In fact, I'll throw this at you. I think they should win it. I think they should. If they end the season off in the playoffs, hell, if they somehow win the division. I don't think they're going to do so, but if they somehow do, give Kyle Shanahan the freaking award, because my days, what this Niners team has gone through this year, and the fact they're still firmly in the race for an NFC playoff spot, they're still firmly in the race to win the freaking division, it's nuts. They've done such a great job, Robert Saleh too, of keeping this defense afloat, keeping them competitive. And the offense with Mac Jones leading the way, Mac Jones is probably going to get traded for a second round pick and be a starting quarterback next year. That's how good Kyle Shanahan has done this year. I mean, it's such an impressive job. It's one of the most impressive coaching jobs I've seen in quite some time, if I'm being honest with you, in terms of taking a team that has injuries at almost every single major position, and not short-term injuries, long-term injuries that have been season-long injuries, like over 5+ weeks, and yet they're still cruising along, winning games. Yes, I'm aware their schedule hasn't been the hardest schedule out there, but as I mentioned earlier, they're still beating good football teams when they have those matchups. And I don't care if they're not going up against the Patriots, the Rams every single week. That division is tough as nails. You got Seattle. I know Arizona sucks, but they're still feisty. And you got the LA Rams, and yet the Niners are still right there. So I tip my my cap off to you. Shout out to Kyle Shanahan. Shout out to the 49ers. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about the Chicago Bears. So look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they have gone up against high-level competition all year. In fact, they have played God nothing this year. They've played nothing. But the mark of a good team is the ability to win games that you should win, right? How many times in the past have we seen these Bear teams just not really play well versus bad competition, right? They'll win one here and there that gets you all excited. Oh, hey, we beat the New York Jets by 15. Oh, and then the next week versus a bad Browns team, we're just not going to show up. And the Browns defense sacks, what would it be, Justin Fields or Nick Foles, whoever it might have been the past few years. Now, though, you bring Ben Johnson in. And I know there was a ton of expectation for this team, but I don't think the expectations were this high. They're now in the lead of the NFC North through 12 weeks. And I know they've played fuck all. They've played nothing, like genuinely nothing. I know Bears fans don't want to hear it, but it's true. You've played nobody, but they're winning. And they, like, you play the competition in front of you. And if they keep playing nobodies, they're going to continue to win. And now they're in a great spot where if you look within their division, the Packers are half a game behind. The Detroit Lions are a game behind. If you win this week versus Philadelphia and, you know, one of the Packers or the Lions will lose, like the Bears are going to be in a really good position to, I don't know, win the division. And even if they don't win the division, they are now with such an advantage with their record that they could still somehow make the playoffs. And I don't think a lot of us had those expectations for the Bears. Some people did, and I'm not going to sit here and deny that. But my expectation for them was 10 wins at best, realistically 8 or 9 wins. But we're through 12 weeks, and they're 8-3. And they're one of the best teams in football. I shouldn't say that. They're one of the best records in football. We'll see if they're the best team probably this week versus Philadelphia. I think that's now the next question they have to answer. What do they look like versus actual competition? If they can pass those tests, if they can prove, hey, we can compete, we can beat good quality opponents, then put this team number one, because I didn't have this expectations for them. So shout out to Chicago, shout out to Ben Johnson, shout out to Caleb Williams. Shout out to Dennis Allen, who I've heard a lot of people defend. I just kind of made an odd comment in one of my last videos about Dennis Allen, and I got like 15 comments telling me, hey, Dennis Allen's the GOAT. All right, man, my bad. I guess so. Was it 28th ranked defense? But yeah, Dennis Allen's the GOAT. Whatever. I didn't want to end it on a bad note. Shout out Chicago. They're balling out. Moving on, let's talk about number 3, the Indianapolis Colts. So the past few weeks have not been the best version of the Indianapolis Colts, at least not consistently. They've had moments for sure, but you've started to see a bit more turbulence, I think would be the best way to describe it. That all said, heading into the season, it was Daniel Jones versus Anthony Richardson. Those were the headlines. And I want to do a bit of a flashback memory. Yes, we got to talk about it. If we go back to a video that I titled, "The Indianapolis Colts Desperate Quarterback Move is a Recipe for Disaster." Yes, that was in response to Daniel Jones being named the starting quarterback. And I will stand on business here. That is by far and away my worst take probably I've ever made, especially on this channel. I've made some good takes. I've had a couple bad ones. Mostly, I feel like I'm fairly accurate. That one was one where I was so passionate about it, but I was so passionately wrong, right? I thought Richardson should have started to start the year off. I really did. And I think my logic was sound. I'll defend myself here. I personally believe that Richardson, the young quarterback, the developmental piece, the guy that Sykin had put almost his job on the line for, was deserving of the job. Obviously now, hindsight's 2020, Daniel Jones is having the best year of his career. Prior to this year, though, his best year was, 15 touchdowns, 9 picks, something like that? So I don't think my video was that wrong. So obviously, heading into the season, when they did announce Daniel Jones to be the starting quarterback, I was fairly down on the Indianapolis Colts. I liked their roster. Taylor, Warren, Pittman, Pierce, at the time, Adonai Mitchell, good offensive line. Like, I loved the pieces, but I was like, they got freaking Daniel Jones starting. Daniel Jones did nothing for New York for, 4, 5, 6 years. And I was wrong, right? And clearly, and I'm okay with admitting that. This is a team that heading into the season, you know, I liked the roster. I probably had them 9, 8, 10 wins at best. Like, I thought Daniel Jones could have a good enough year to get them to that point. But no, they started the season off like, 7-1 or something crazy like that. They're now 8-3. They got one of the best offenses in football. Defensively, not their best showing versus Kansas City, but a lot of really good, talented pieces there. And now we're looking at the Colts as like one of the favorites in the AFC. Again, I know this is kind of bad timing because they're coming off their worst game of probably the season versus Kansas City, where the defense didn't play good. And, you know, they got away in the red zone, holding down a little bit there. But the offense sputtered. Like, that was probably, it was either that game or the Pittsburgh game. Pittsburgh was kind of ugly too. But still, like, if they can just get back on track, get back to running the football, get back to Daniel Jones being comfortable, like, they're going to have a really good shot of making that playoff run. I don't think they're just going to completely collapse. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they will be fine. And they're probably going to win the division. Heading into the season, I was like, yeah, Houston's probably going to run away with this one. I don't have much faith in the Colts. Like, the Colts will be a good team, not a great team. And I mean, well, I was just wrong. I was just wrong. And, I don't want to say it was just me. I think there's a lot of other people out there that questioned the decision to go with Daniel Jones. And beyond that, probably thought kind of like myself, this was going to be a football team that won maybe at best 10 or 9 games. Like, I think that was kind of consensus view of the team. And they've completely dominated those expectations. They're way overperforming. They're an 8-3 ball club. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to have a really good chance of making a deep playoff run. Like, they're in a good spot. Like, they just are. So, L Metro, W, Indianapolis Colts. Next up at number 2, I got the Denver Broncos. So this was a team that I was very high on heading into the season. I thought they had a real chance of making the playoffs. I thought they had a decent chance of winning the division. But even now, I think they've exceeded my expectations. They're 9-2. They're 6-0 at home games. They've got a couple really good wins on their resume. They probably should have beat the Colts. Like, let's just be honest. But a win versus Kansas City. And they're now, 2 games over LA, 4 games over the Chiefs. Like, they're going to win the division this year. Like, they probably will. And I think that in and of itself means they're overperforming. And I hyped and I glazed the hell out of this defense the entire offseason on every channel that I was on. I was like, oh man, Denver's defense is the best in the league. Even they have exceeded my expectations. They have been so good this year at getting after the quarterback, slowing down the run game, slowing down the pass, everything. Genuinely everything. And they've been doing it with Pat Surtain kind of being banged up the past few weeks. Like, they're still balling the hell out. And offensively, it hasn't been as good as I thought it was going to be, but they've showed up when it matters most. They showed up versus Kansas City and got the job done. And Bo Nix is starting to play better football. And look, if New England slips up, and we'll talk about New England here in a second, spoiler alert, but if New England slips up, Denver is in the pole position to be the number 1 seed in the AFC, which I didn't have on my bucket list. I did not have that as my expectations. Like, that was something I did not have. I thought this team was going to be good. I thought they were going to make the playoffs. I thought maybe 11 wins, 10 wins, 12 wins at best. I mean, they're already at 9, and they look like they're going to be well on their way to 13 or 14 wins and potentially the number 1 seed in the AFC. And winning the AFC West, I mean, this is the first time the Chiefs have not won the West in, I don't know how many years. It feels like it's been 8 or 9 or something crazy like that. So shout out to the Denver Broncos winning this division, beating out the Chiefs. I think is such an impressive thing. And I mean, it's a tough division too because the Chargers are also there, but Denver's just handling their business, and I give them all the flowers in the world. So shout out to the Denver Broncos. But of course, at number 1, you knew it was coming, the New England Patriots. Yeah, New England, boy, what a good job from them. I think most of us thought they'd be better this year, and there was some hype from them, from a lot of different people about them potentially making the playoffs. I was always a bit more, I don't want to say pessimistic, but a bit more cautious with the team. I thought they were going to be really good, but I was thinking 9 wins. Like, realistically, I thought last year you had a top 5 pick. You're not just going to make a huge jump forward to, being a playoff team, and boy, I was wrong. I was just wrong. This team, in some ways, kind of reminds me a little bit of Washington from last year. Now, totally different circumstances and totally different rosters, but just kind of going from out of nowhere to jumping now into a high playoff seed, making a potential deep playoff run, like that sort of thing. I'm not predicting New England to be bad next year. Just throwing out there kind of the comparison. This team has been great. I love the hire of Mike Vrabel. I loved Drake May. I loved a lot of the pieces of the roster, but I was still cautious about the offensive line. I still had a couple questions defensively. And I think my biggest caution was just the fact that this was a young, developing football team that I just thought might need a year to, integrate into the system and get better. My expectation was that, through 12 weeks, they'd maybe be like 6-6 and, down the stretch of the season, maybe they start to put things together and, I don't know, go on a run there of winning 3 of the next, I guess it would be 5 games or 4 of the next 5 and, finishing the season on a high note and having something to look forward to the next year. Like, that's what I thought this Patriots team was going to be like. But no, instead, a little bit of a bumpy start for the first few weeks, and then they just caught an insane groove. And it really all stemmed from that Buffalo Bills game where I feel like that Bills game was almost like the validation of like, hey, we're good. Like we're a good football team. We just beat and handled the Buffalo Bills at their home in a whiteout game at night with all the spotlight on us. And we won that game. And yes, the competition hasn't been great since then, but even up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they beat them pretty soundly. So I don't really love the narrative that New England hasn't beat nobody, because like Chicago hasn't beat nobody. All right, the best win for Chicago was now Pittsburgh without Aaron Rodgers, and outside of that, it was the Dallas Cowboys in week 3. Like those are their best wins. New England has a win versus the Buffalo Bills, who have been in the AFC playoffs every year for the past 5 years or whatever it's been. They also have a win versus Tampa Bay, a team that won a Super Bowl a few years ago, and it's been in the playoffs ever since. Like those are impressive wins versus 2 consistent playoff contenders, right? They haven't won a championship yet, but they've been handling their business. Now, New England's going to get some more tests down the road, and I'm excited to see them go up against higher level competition, but I don't need that extra validation to prove to me they're a good football team. I know they are. They beat Buffalo in their home. They beat Tampa Bay, and they're not struggling versus bad teams. They're soundly beating them. When they go up against bad competition, they beat them. It's not a close game. It might take them a little bit to open the floodgates, but eventually they do, and they end up winning quite comfortably. So New England, to me, biggest overperformer this year, biggest surprise of the year. And by the way, they are number 1 in the entire league record-wise. They're the only team 10-2. Now, I know they haven't had their bye yet, but still, they're 10-2. That's impressive. They're in a great spot to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. Who would have thought the New England Patriots, just 1 year removed from drafting Will Campbell with the top 5 pick, would be the number 1 seed in the AFC? Not saying it's going to happen, but as of right now, that's where we're at through week 12. So you guys let me know in the comment section below who is the biggest overperformer of the year. And I also just did a video of the biggest underperformers of the year. So check that out. It'll be in the description below. It'll also be pinned up right now. And hopefully you guys hit the like and subscribe button. I love you guys. Peace.